G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being the greatest rugby fans around the world. I do appreciate you being here. Today, you might notice a little bit different with my voice because a lot of you have been confusing me for being a Kiwi, okay? So I want to make sure that everybody knows I'm Australian, so I put on my Australian accent today for this preview. Wallabies versus the Springboks, the world champions, Sydney, in my backyard, alright? And this is literally 5 minutes down the road from me. And just to make sure before we start, we're going to check the time for the game. 7:35, good. So it's not a 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I am not going to miss this game this weekend. And yes, let's begin. First up, the team has to be announced. We're going to go through that in a minute. But there's a lot of Offfield drama this week. Firstly, I did see Peter Dutoy, Faf de Klerk, and Vincent Koch at the shops the other day, like 2 days ago when I was going to the gym. And obviously, I did not have my phone on me to take a photo, but because I was going to the gym. You know, you don't bring your phone to the gym. That is rule number 1, okay? Don't be one of those people who brings your phone to the gym. Shame on you. So I went there, saw this guy shopping, went up and shook their hands, and yeah, pretended like I don't know who they are. Peter Dutoy and Vincent Koch thought I only knew who Faf was. So they're like introducing themselves. Oh yeah, I'm Peter. I'm Vince. I'm like, yeah, I know you guys. You don't have to introduce yourself to me like I don't know who you are. But anyway, saw the guys there. Faf de Klerk, just an update. His hand is fine after hitting Nick in the face. So he looks good. Peter Steph looks fine, even though he has probably a knee injury. Vincent Koch had a big black eye. So yeah, he got hit pretty hard by somebody there. He had a big black eye. So yeah, those guys are okay. Okay. You heard it here from my channel first, okay? So obviously going to this game, a lot of off-field drama we want to talk about before we go through the list. So first thing, there's something that you're not going to see in South African news, okay? Apparently, the Springboks players were training in one of the Randwick High School, like their private oval, and one of the players decided to take a leak on the side of the field in the bush, and got caught. And he had an issue. So no one, the name of the player has not been revealed. So it's up to everybody to guess who that was. But yeah, the principal was like no students saw this apparently. So the principal saw it, but like the students didn't see it. And obviously this was the training sessions were done after school hours, so there wasn't student around to see this or to potentially see this. So that's okay. But yeah, really lucky that no kid was anywhere near to see this because could have gone to jail for that. That's pretty bad. It's 2022, guys. You can't do this stuff anymore. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, I'm sure you would be able to get away with this and nobody would care. But in 2022, mate, you go on the list for doing this sort of stuff. You go on to like, I don't know what they call it, like sex offender list or something. Yeah, pretty serious stuff. And yeah, so one of the Springbok player was had to issue an apology, and Randwick Boys High School. Yeah, so the principal was not happy to see. And obviously, the Australian rugby is also creating a lot of drama for themselves. Just want to quickly go through this. So obviously, Australian rugby, we've talked about this before. They're getting the Lions Tour coming up. They're getting the Rugby World Cup coming up. They're going to literally make this estimated. It's going to be $100 million being trucked into Rugby Australia over the next 5 years or so. So as a result, they're out shopping for players. So there was a massive leak this week that apparently they're looking at spending $10 million to secure a rugby league player from the Roosters called Suali'i. I don't actually know this guy, to be honest, so it sounds like a waste of money to me. If you're gonna spend $10 million, get Latrell Mitchell, make sure, or maybe Josh Adokar, someone good, like maybe James Tedesco. I don't even know this guy, but they're talking about him because apparently this guy grew up. He's a 19-year-old. He grew up he grew up playing rugby union in high school, so there's a lot of talk about potentially getting him to come back to union. And yeah, so there was a lot of talk, and obviously this has triggered a lot of people in rugby league. Like I said before, right? I don't watch rugby league, but the rugby league commentary, the news, the drama is the best. So I read some of this stuff. It's actually really entertaining. So first up, some of these guys were basically saying that for Rugby Australia to try to spend $10 million on one player instead of supporting the current players, a lot of the current players are going overseas because they were not making enough money. I'm pretty sure some of these players took a pay cut as well during the pandemic. So a lot of people were not happy about the pay cuts, and you know they are struggling to sustain their current player to pay their current players their appropriate worth. To come out and just randomly try to buy a big name for rugby league for 10 million is a bit of an insult to the existing players. Also, there's no secret, the rugby league pundits pointed out the obvious fact that the administrative body, Rugby Australia, is basically coming out to do this sort of stuff. Is a symbol of how poorly they've ran the business. Yeah, it does not look good. And obviously, there's no development for rugby league. For rugby union. The developmental path is really poor, and and they think that is really insulting for basically the rugby union boss, Hamish, I think his name is, come out and basically say, hey, this Lions tour coming up, and you get to get a bigger audience overseas playing rugby union, which is kind of true. But as a sport in Australia, you can't just. Yeah, it's really a dying sport, to be really, really frank. They did mention there was a bit of an interesting clause in this player's contract. What's his name? Let me just get his name back up. Suali'i. There's a clause in his contract. So when he signed with the Roosters, instead of just saying, hey, I'm happy to be with you for 5 years or 3 years like they normally do, he actually had a clause in his contract that he has the option to review his contract every year. So he has an option to basically pull out at the end of the season any given time. So he kind of left himself open potentially for a rugby union return. Maybe because of this clause, got the rugby union interested. But still, it is really insulting to just, leave all the current players up and dry and just put out $10 million. That's a lot of money. I think pretty sure David Pocock had like 5 million over 5 years, and he was already like up there. I don't think 10 million is something that I don't even think Israel Folau got that much. Like Israel Folau got like 6 million or something over 5 years or something like that. Like 10 million over, I think it was over 5 years or so. That's ridiculous amount of money, and it's already insulting. A lot of the players now deserves more. That 10 million could be spent much better elsewhere, to be really frank. And so that's the drama out of that. And also, Wallabies has confirmed this week that Michael Hooper, the captain, will not be participating in the rest of the Rugby Championship. Not going to be playing at all. Maybe until November Test Series, which is see if he's going to happen to travel overseas. But mental health is a big issue. So, yeah, I'm really glad that Hoop's going to take some time off. It is what it is. Just got to take care of himself. And there's not much, wish him, get well soon, I guess. And then obviously, we've talked about this is going to be in Sydney. It's perfect day today. Perfect day. It's been a bit of rain yesterday. So going this weekend, it's looking going to be raining again on a Saturday evening. So this is a new stadium they're going to be playing as well. Not sure how this is going to pay out. I think the stadium is pretty enclosed. There's not a roof, so it's going to be wet. And then I'm pretty sure they're going to have a women's game before as well. So the ground might be a bit torn up. So yeah, we'll have to see. The conditions could be a little bit bad, despite being a new stadium, new lawn and everything. And really interesting stuff to see. So obviously the lineup, before we talk about lineup, we're going to have to talk about the most important player on the field. Just let me quickly get this up. The referee. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about the referee. So the referee is going to be Ben O'Keefe of New Zealand once again. A lot of you guys might think that, this week we're going to have a better referee than last week because, Apparently, what was his name? He had a really, Paul Williams, should never referee again and go back to the bush. But hey, Ben O'Keefe, everything that Williams did last game is basically like, I'm pretty sure O'Keefe is like his boss, essentially. In some ways, it's like the senior referee at New Zealand Rugby. So everything, all the interpretations of yellow cards, penalties are a little bit different. And this is done intentionally during Super Rugby to reduce the amount of penalties and red cards and yellow cards, whatnot. And as a result, if you're expecting Ben O'Keefe to give yellow cards for any of the infringements that you saw last week, not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I've seen a lot worse during Super Rugby, head-high shots, mitigated not just from a yellow card or red card, mitigated from yellow card to not even a penalty, okay? Ben O'Keefe is a lot less lenient, actually, a lot more lenient than Paul Williams. If you thought Paul Williams was too lenient, you're going to have a good day this weekend. And obviously, we paid him to do so. Of course, he's gonna call for the Australians, pay good money for this guy, okay, guys? And don't get too upset. You know, one day, the Rugby World Cup will go back to South Africa, maybe another 30 years, and you guys are gonna have the money to pay off your own referees. But for now, for this weekend, Ben O'Keefe is one of us, okay? He's my 16th player on the field. Don't expect to see any yellow cards. If there is gonna be any, it's probably going to be against Springboks, to be really frank. But yeah, let's talk about the team. So the Wallabies have fielded an unchanged starting team since like 2000 and what? How does 20? What was it? Like 27 Test caps, or how long was it? I had an article up just before. So Wallabies has basically fielded the same team for the first time since 2000 and since like Israel Folau and since it was Michael Checker's time, in fact. So it's been like 5 years or something since the Wallabies has fielded the same team. But unchanged from number 1 to 15 for the Wallabies. But the more important part is the Springbok side. Lots of changes for the Springbok team due to injuries. Pieter-Steph du Toit, Lukamio Arm, and a number of other players all had a knee injury. Obviously, Faf de Klerk hurt his hand. And obviously, there's a lot of shuffling around as well for the Springbok team. So the Springboks has fielded Hunter Pollard had a knee injury as well. So a lot of different names has been changed for the Springbok side. Big changes throughout. So how that's going to go, I'm not sure. But what I was really concerned about is Springbok has once again this week opted to play without the bomb squad setup. A 5-3 bench split once again. The Wallabies, once again, is setting up for the bomb squad. 6-2 bench split, extra forward on the bench to try to finish off the game strong. And I don't think the bomb squad really paid off for the Wallabies last game. The Wallabies, didn't really, can't really say if it really paid off that much. But what was important for the Wallabies is not to get dominated by the scrummaging, by the physicality of the Springbok forward pack. So that's probably what they were aiming for with the bomb squad set up for the Wallabies, instead of actually trying to dominate the breakdowns, dominate the set pieces. To try to beat the opposition down with the extra forward. It's more like a defensive approach here, in my opinion. But let's go through the lineup and let's see what the changes are for the Springboks. So the Wallabies, unchanged front rower, James Slipper comes in number 1. Folau Faenga at number 2. James Slipper is a captain, by the way. And Ala Alatoa in the tight head position for the Wallabies at number 3. For the Springboks, the reserve front rows has been moved to the starting position. So Steven Kithoff comes in at number 1. Malcolm Marx comes in number 2. Franz Malherbe comes in number 3 for the Springboks. Actually, Franz Malherbe was the starting. That's a mistake. So he's the only one who retains the tight head position. He was not on the bench last week. In the locking position, Rory Arnold, Matt Phillip comes in at 4 and 5. The lineouts was pretty bad for the Wallabies. The Springboks was able to disrupt a lot of the lineout throws. So, yeah, a lot of work to be done. They got away not conceding too many points. In fact, not conceding any points despite the poor lineouts last week. So Eben Esbeth retaining his number 4 jersey. Lou Diega, number 5, as always. The two probably best locking duos in the world. The lineouts for the Springboks was not 100% themselves. they were, I think Joseph Dweba, again, was struggling a little bit with their line-out throw to keeping that straight. But the overall missed line-outs was much worse for the Wallabies due to the disruptions by Ibn Esbeth and Lou Diacha. Yeah. And a number 6 position in the blindside flanker position for the Wallabies. Jet Halloway retains the number 6 jersey. Siya Khaleesi gets that open side flanker position for the Springboks at the number 6 jersey. Fraser McReight had a spectacular game last week. He has really developed over the last few years, ever since few games, ever since he took over the number 7 jersey from Michael Hooper. The first game, he literally looked lost. Last game, he looked much more confident in what he was doing. And then, 2 weeks ago, actually. No. Whatever. The second game against Argentina, he looked a lot more confident despite the loss. And last week, he looked very, very good. Yeah, his running game, his breakdown, the speed, everything he was asked to do, he did really, really well. Scoring 2 tries as well. Really showing that youth, that energy that he brings onto the Wallabies side in the number 7 jersey. Something that he's done quite well for the Reds. And it's really good to see him transition that into the Wallabies side. For the Springboks, they have opted to bring out Franco Mostert from the bench, who also plays as the third lock. This is something that the Springboks has done a lot, having a lock in that blindside flanker position in the number 7 jersey. And this is something that, interestingly, England and the All Blacks is starting to try to replicate as well with that. England has already been doing it for a while. The All Blacks tries to do this with Scott Barrett at the number 6 position in the blindside. Yeah, and the reason that the Springbok 7 is a blindside because they play left and right. They don't play open side and blindside with the jerseys. So technically, Franco Mostert is on the blindside for the Springboks. Nevertheless, our number 8 jersey, Robert Valentini once again for the Wallabies. Jasper Wiese comes in for number 8 jersey over Dwayne The Rock Vermeulen, who's been dropped to the bench. Jasper Wiese is one of the guys who's really, really good under the high ball. He almost plays an additional back for the All Blacks. It's not All Blacks, for the Springboks. Sorry, I've been thinking about Fozzie too much these days. So with Jasper Wiese coming off the bench, in fact, he wasn't selected at all last game. So with Jasper Wiese at 8, I will be expecting a lot more box kicks, to be frank. I feel like the kicking game will be a bit more important for the Springboks. They're going to be targeting that a little bit more this week than they did last week. Especially last week when the Springboks were like camped inside the Australian half for so long and not able to score with just the forward brutal, they were not able to brute force through that try with their forwards. I feel like maybe that's the logic they're having to try to use that kicking to open up more space behind, like Argentina did, in fact, a few weeks ago now. So I think that's a really telling sign that the Springboks will be doing a lot more kicking this game than they did last week. Obviously, on the back line, Nick, Australian of the Year, White, the greatest player in the Australian side. We know Nick, he's been doing a lot of shenanigans, even in Super Rugby. And finally, somebody fell for it. And the unfortunate person fell for it last week was Faf de Klerk. Nick has been trying to gotcha somebody for a very long time now, so he'll be very proud to catch a big fish like Faf with that little shenanigans. And so Nick retains his number 9 jersey. Jaden Hendrickse, maybe because Faf hurt his hand, comes up from the bench at number 9. Hendrickse, I actually thought really interesting with Hendrickse as well. He was actually really good as a very fast breakdown kind of halfback that you wanted in an attacking style rugby that they used him for earlier in the season. But in the last game against the All Blacks, he started doing the box kick as well. So I'm hoping that they use him more for attacking, quick breakdown style than for his kicking game. Because, I just don't think his box kicks is as good as Faf's, to be really frank. So if they're going to use him in conjunction with Jasper Wiese, I'm not sure how that's going to go out. I don't know if that's even going to work that well for the Springboks. We shall see. But anyway, here's the guy that's going to be doing the kicking, playing the kicking game for 100%. Damien Willemse. His kicking game has been tremendously improved in recent games. And he's also the greatest player in the history of the Springboks, as he covers every position in the Springbok backline, except for the number 9, I guess. And so 100 Pollard being injured, Damien Willemse, he stepped in as the number 10. as an emergency number 10 against the Welsh in that first test. I thought he did spectacularly well. And a lot of you guys were pointing out to me that his goal kicking is horrendous in the URC. Here's the thing, right? The URC goal kicks are just like practice. Nobody cares. When the real pressure is on, the big games, the big moments, he needed to win the game for the Springboks to prevent the Springboks from losing for the first time against Wales at home. Huge pressure in the second half to be like randomly thrown into the 10 position in that and still able to get 100% of the goal kicks when the team needs him to do. That is talent. That is the real deal. Like, you can miss 100 kicks in the season. That is not nearly as important as him getting that one last kick to win the game for the Springboks against the Wales. That was impressive. Under so much pressure, and that was not an easy kick as well. It was like 40 minutes out with a bit of an angle as well. That's not an easy kick by any stretch of imagination. He slots that down the middle. That is, really, really impressive. So for me, his goal kicking, we have to see if that was a fluke or not. But I was very impressed with that performance against Wales, nevertheless. So he's going to come in for the goal kicking. And obviously, he will be doing the kicking game as well. So the high balls, the kick behind the 50-22s will be coming out of number 10 spot. He used to do a little bit of the goal kicking in the wider position for the Springboks. He likes to slot in on that 13th position because he does play center for the Stormers. So he likes to do that 50-22 from the outside center position. But today he'll be much closer in the 10 position, and we shall see how he functions. In the number 11 jersey, Mareka Combeti got away with a lot of yellow cards and red cards apparently. He's not going to get yellow card in this game, unfortunately, with Ben O'Keefe. Because we bribed him. Not going to happen. So Corin Betty will be out taking names once again this weekend, hopefully. Yeah, we shall see. And Mako Zuluma Pimpi, he probably still felt it last week. He's going to be probably running around Corin Betty this time. Make sure he doesn't run into the freight trainer once again this weekend. Hunter Paisami comes in number 12 for the Wallabies. Damien Dialendi at number 12 for the Springboks. And there's a bit of a size difference, as I mentioned last week. Hunter Paisami is the smaller guy, but Hunter Paisami is really, really tough. As tough as you can get for the number for any rugby player. So I want to see how he goes again this weekend with Dialendi. Lenny Kitao comes back at number 13 in the outside center position for the Wallabies. He is a kicking option for the Wallabies side. So other than Noah, I didn't even mention Noah Lolesio, probably the best number 10 performance last week I've seen. That set piece from the Wallabies was spectacular. Once again, we will see a set play from the Wallabies again this week to see to try to find a couple of tries here and there. But Noah Lolesio was really good. That little flick pass, paying tribute to Quake Cooper as well. That was really good. I was very happy to see that. Anyway, Len Nikitau is the other kicking option for the Wallabies at the outside center position, number 13, giving that bit of extra space out wide. So he will be doing that. An opposite number for him, Jesse Creel. I don't know if Jesse Creel has a kicking game out of the 13. I'm pretty sure Jesse doesn't. He has been playing a lot of winger for the Springboks since November last year. So I will actually be expecting Jesse Creel to be pressuring the high ball. So again, having Jesse Creel at 13 is an additional player that will be pressuring the high ball, pressuring the kicking game. So I feel like, this is looking going to be a really heavily kicking, leaning setup for the Springboks. Number 14 for the Wallabies, Tom Wright finally gets the right position that he's accustomed to in that number 14 jersey. Also, Tom Wright has a good kicking boot as well out of that 14 jersey. Another big change for the Springboks. A lot of people are talking about him. Kanan Moody, a 19-year-old making his debut at the number 14 jersey. We shall see how it goes. I don't know much about him. Plays for the Bulls. And number 15, Reece Hodge has every week is improving more and more. I hope to see another big step up this weekend in front of his home fans. And and he's up against the returning great Willie Leroux. Willie Leroux comes back at number 15 jersey for the Springboks. On the bench, Dave Parecki, Scott Seo, and Tanella, the Tongan Thor. At number 18 for the Wallabies. The scrummaging was okay in the second half. I thought, Tupou showed a bit of running game. Again, I felt like, Tupou really need to work. The scrummaging definitely still has a lot of room to improvement, especially in the second half. Springboks has opted for a different setup on the front rowers, and this front rower I think is really, really scary, because this is typically the Springboks starting front row. This is the front row setup. The props are the front row setups for the Lions tour for the Springboks in the starting line tour test. So yeah, these guys are really, really, really good. So Ox Inche and Trevor Inyakani comes in at number 18 for the Springboks. And both these props are, are known to be, a 30-minute, 35-minute players. And they're just going to get on the field and pump everything out in 30, 35 minutes and and get off. So for them to finish the game, expect to see a lot of brutalizing, scrummaging, and more out of the Springboks from these two. The new addition for the Springboks is De Jong Fury, comes in at the hooker position. I'm pretty sure he plays loose forward for the Stormers, but he has been, since brought into the Springboks in recent times, he has been, since the tour to Australia actually, he has been, working as a backup hooker. So he will be doing the throws in the second half. We shall see how he goes. For the Wallabies, the Bomber squad, riding out the next 3-4 pack. Darcy Swain comes in number 9. Robert Leota, number 20. And the biggest finisher for the Wallaby side, P. Samu, brings a lot of speed and the breakdown and around the field as well. A great runner, ball carrier as well himself. P. Samu, the danger man for the Wallabies. The true finisher for the Wallabies at the number 21 jersey. For the Springboks, like I mentioned, 5-5-3 setup. Huaga Smith is the guy that's going to bring the speed for the Springboks. His discipline last week was a little bit poor. I thought he was probably maybe got a little bit frustrated with the game. He did give away a few penalties that was not necessary at the breakdown. Dwayne Vermeulen, Dwayne the Rock Vermeulen comes in number 20. He gets dropped from the number 8 jersey. I do feel like putting him at the starting jersey was probably a little bit premature following his knee reconstruction surgery. Kobus Reinach gets number 21 jersey for Faf de Klerk's injured hand after hitting Nick White. And number 22, Francois Stang, comes back again at 22. I feel like a lot of Springbok fans probably not happy with his performance last week. He did look a bit out of shape. He was fumbling around the ball a little bit on the field. He dropped the ball very uncharacteristically at the fullback position last week. So, yeah, it did look like he's been probably, hasn't played rugby for a bit too long, for international rugby for a bit too long to be, last week, maybe he was looking a little bit rusty. So, we'll just see how he goes this week, but he definitely needs a big performance from him this weekend. He can't have that same performance like he did last week. Warwick Gelant comes in at number 23 for the Springboks to finish off the last reserve for the Springboks. So he was on the wing last week, so he will be coming in as the final piece of the puzzle for the Springboks. So after the Wallabies, 2 backs reserves, same as last week. Jake Gordon comes in at number 22 in place of, what's his name? Tate McDermott, who is out, and Andrew Callaway, AK, returns to number 23 jersey, covers everybody on the back line, I guess. Also with that really, really good kicking game from Andrew Callaway, we'll be expecting him to do a lot of work coming off the bench. So, yeah, that's the setup, guys. So my prediction, Wallabies failed to win by 30 points last week. I think Wallabies should aim to win by 40 this week, and maybe they'll end up winning by 30, so you got to aim high to get a better result. So I'm going to say the Wallabies win by 40, especially considering, Damien Valemsa is not going to miss any of his kick this weekend. The Wallabies are going to have to score like 5 tries to at least offset that 100% goal kicking Damien Valemsa having in international test rugby. So that's going to be something that's really important to really score 40 points against the Springboks to win the game. So a final score, I'm predicting 42 points to 12. Wallabies win by 30, but scoring 40 points. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys later this week for the review. I really do appreciate it. Cheers.